Hi, my name is Jeff, and this is my wife, Sarah. Any questions so far? So my name is Jeff, and I've been around this community, and I was joking with someone earlier, but I'm pretty serious about it, actually, now that I think about it. You guys have put up with me for a while, but you're here for her tonight, so I really appreciate you guys coming out and hearing what God's done in our story. So just a little bit about me before we get into the testimony and just the introduction here. Born and raised around this area, love this community. I dream about what it can be. And I currently work at the Campus Ministry Center. That's where a lot of people know me from. I've been doing Joppa Young Adult Ministry for about 21, 22 years, somewhere in there. The Campus Ministry Center for 13 or 14 years. And pastoring Blomkist Baptist Church for the last 9+ years. So I joke around with people that I chase around young adults during the week and old Swedish people on the weekends. So.
All right. Hi, I'm Sarah, Jeff's wife. That's how I introduce myself everywhere I go. So I am originally from Wisconsin, River Falls, and I moved here in July when we got married. I currently work at the SWWC in New London. It's a level 4 school. I love those kiddos, and I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm new to it, but I love it.
Introduce our kiddos.
Oh, yeah. We have 5 children. You'll hear them throughout the night over here. So 2 of them are my biological children, Emma and Ellie, 10 and 8. And then we also have Finley, Griffin, and Xander. They are the youngest. The most rambunctious, of course. Mostly.
It
matter.
takes turns, yeah.
They're 5 and 3. The twins are 3, so.
Yeah, so praise God for people helping us with our children tonight. And just, they don't want it probably, but can you give them a round of applause?
Thank you, Laura and Barb.
Thank you, guys. And thank you. There's a lot of people who have taken shifts at our house over the years, so I really appreciate you guys. So I'm oldest, so I'll go first. My life, I always thought was kind of the stereotypical Midwestern life of Minnesota, especially growing up in New London Spicer. A lot of structure. I had 2 parents in the house. A lot of sports to keep me busy, and a lot of just, kind of anything we wanted to do, we had the privilege of kind of doing. So I just grew up in what I thought was a traditional Midwest Minnesota environment. Church every Sunday. We warmed up that back, third from the back pew at Our Lady of the Lakes in Spicer. It was pretty nice for the people sitting behind us up until we hit middle school, and then all of a sudden they were at a disadvantage for seeing anything happening in the church. But it was just a typical life. But what happened as I grew up, it felt like I could achieve anything I wanted, and we had support. So when I don't know how far this is going to let me go. I didn't plan this out, but it'll be okay. So I point to this as my livelihood and growing up. I played basketball when most photos were black and white, and we had support. Small town community, we had support. People came out and supported us. I didn't know anything other than community and support and people cheering me on. And so part of that's awesome, but also part of how my head took it at that age was, they're here because I'm awesome, And it was really easy to really gas myself up and find my identity in my achievements. Captain of any team I ever played on. National Honor Society. I was the good kid doing good things. And that's how I identified myself. So as I get older, I always joke that the older I get, the better I was at sports. So the legend grows in my own head. But I went off to college, and I intended on playing basketball at River Falls, Wisconsin. And I always tell people I planned on being the biggest thing to hit that small little town. And apparently they did not get that memo. The coach The coach who had been emailing me and calling me and recruiting me as much as the college rules would allow, I remember sitting in his dingy green office going, I don't think I can go out for the team. College is eating me alive, man. And I remember his response being, okay. I was like, but I'm awesome. And okay. But college just kind of ate me alive. The stuff I saw in the brochures was not how reality worked. I was lonely. I felt like a failure. I would come home, dreaded making my visits home to my parents because I didn't want to run into people thinking I was a failure when I came back to my community. I was defined by what I achieved and what I didn't achieve. And that led to some really dark, broken thoughts my freshman year. I was 18 years old, 19 years old, and just broken. Until that summer, I thought there was a cute girl. I asked her out in an uncommon, gangly fit of bravery, and she said no. But she invited me to a praise and worship service. And I said, sounds like a free date, internally. So she drove and brought me to Princeburg, and I discovered there was a place called Princeburg. And over at Unity Church, once again, 3 rows from the back on the right-hand side of their old sanctuary, I saw people enjoying God. And I was familiar with God because I blamed him for all my problems, but I didn't have a relationship with God to allow him to fix me. And I saw people enjoying that, and I go, man, I want that too. And so that summer, there was this huge shift from finding my identity in what I could achieve or what I didn't achieve into what Jesus had achieved for me, and finding my identity in his love and not having to craft my own image any longer because I was already made in one. And so that changed everything. So I went off to school, and my circumstances didn't change. I was in a dorm of 220-ish people, and on the weekends there would be 4, and it would be just like the kids that were exchange students or international students, and I didn't speak any of their language. They didn't really speak mine, and we were broken, but that didn't change. But I did. And so we still worked it out, and it went from being isolated to having solitude. And then there were a few people that started sticking around, and the 4 of us would walk to the church on the edge of campus, not because of any preference, but because of geography. And by the end of our stay there, we went from 4 of us to 40 of us walking there every Sunday. And just God has changed that heart. So now that I do young adult ministry, and I've been doing it for a long time, a lot of what I do is there's been an empathy that God has developed in me for young adults, trying to deliver what I wish I would have had my freshman year. The kind of community I wish I would have had. The kind of love I wish I would have known explicitly. And there was some there. I just didn't know it existed. So I'm trying to be super aggressive in lovingly invading lives as we go. So that shift happened in college. I was no longer defined by what I did on a basketball court. I was no longer Jeff, the basketball player. I was Jeff, child of God. So I'm going to hand it off to Sarah, because I just rushed through 18 years, 19 years. I feel like it's her turn.
All right. I'm not as seasoned of a speaker as Jeff, so I'm going to read a lot of mine, and I'm sorry for that.
You're in control of this.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy.
Just hit the forward button. You're good.
Okay. So, I'm pretty new to this speaking thing. I've shared my story. I think this is the 4th time I've shared my story in the past, 2 months. And that's it. So I'm figuring this out. But I used to cry when people would talk to me in grade school and middle school, and I had overactive sweat glands. But now I still cry, but the reasons have changed. So, yeah. Anyways, so this is me. I was born February 1st, 1990 in Fountain Valley, California. My mom was 24, my sister was 4. We went through a lot of changes in my early years. My dad was from the East Coast, Massachusetts, so quite a bit of distance there. I don't know the full details. I haven't asked too many questions. But my mom and him broke up when I was 3, so I didn't have a whole lot of time with him. My mom wanted to raise us in a safe environment, and she couldn't give us that with him. So my mom was a single mom for most of my life. Her main focus was keeping me and my sister safe the best way she knew how. And she didn't have a great example for that. Her and her parents didn't have the best relationship. Her mom devoted her life to a religion my mom couldn't see eye to eye with. My grandma suffered from manic bipolar disorder, which is a mental illness that can be treated and maintained, but when mixed with alcoholism and a legalistic religion, it can get pretty scary. My mom spent a lot of time visiting her mom in psych wards and bouncing from home to home after her parents divorced. This left my mom with a separation between her and God, just based on what she knew about him, or what she thought she knew. My grandpa, on the other hand, my mom's dad, he was more functioning than her mom. Very little emotions. Norwegian, didn't share a lot of those hard feelings. So needless to say, my mom didn't have a great example for raising a family, especially alone. She did do her best, though. She chose not to drink alcohol around us. She chose to move us to Wisconsin, which is where it seemed safest to raise children. Lots of farmland, not a lot of city. That's where my grandpa lived with his most recent wife. Let's see where we're at. I like this picture because I like frogs still, but we lived in my grandpa's cabin off the lake, which sounds nice when you say it out loud, but it didn't have electricity or running water. I don't remember a lot of it, but it felt like we were camping a lot of the time. I was young enough to think it was just a lot of fun, and there was frogs, like in the house. I really enjoyed it, from what I know. So growing up, I didn't know Jesus or God. I had heard of him through extended relatives on holiday services here and there, just as an obligation to be with family. My mom never spoke about him, though. It was a foreign subject in our house. Aside from being fatherless, both earthly and spiritual, my childhood was pretty decent as far as I knew. I felt normal. I did my best to fit in at school. My mom kept us clean, taught us manners and respect, so elementary wasn't too hard. But then middle school hit. That's where things get complicated. I had to start making choices for myself. Friend groups started breaking apart, changing depending on which version of you wanted to be. I wasn't prepared to make these decisions at all. My main value in life at that time was just being liked and having a good time. That's all I knew what life was for. Once puberty hit, I became very insecure very quickly. Like I said, overactive sweat glands. I wasn't the best dressed, the most athletic. I wasn't the funniest. This comes from lots of scars and character building. I think I'm funny now. He says so. I was shy, quiet, chunky. I liked to draw. I would get so nervous when boys I thought were cute would talk to me. I would talk to people that I was unattracted to, mostly just because I wasn't scared that they might see who I was. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, puberty. Okay. These insecurities eventually led me to a group of friends that could relate to some of my insecurities. Most of them had either a single-parent home, some type of dysfunctional home life, whether it was mental health or just home life issues. They also weren't prepared to make these formative choices, so I didn't feel alone when I was with them. And then once I turned 13 and my emotions kicked into high gear, it got worse. Spent the next 4 years avoiding new social situations, drinking a lot, and using destructive coping mechanisms to distract me from feelings I didn't know what to do with. I was continuously searching for external pleasure to fill an internal void, whether it was drugs, boys, or even just acknowledgement from my peers. Each high and temporary connection left me feeling more empty than before. And at that point in time, my mom was working and going to college. So a lot of that time, I was being raised by my sister, who was 4 years older than me. Obviously, she wasn't any more equipped than me, but things got pretty sketchy. I ran away from home so much, I actually missed most of my freshman year of high school. My mom couldn't control me. She asked the county for help. They put me in group homes and foster homes to try and keep me safe. I just wanted to be with my friends, or my boyfriend at the time, who was 5 years older than me, which, yikes. The only thing I was living for was myself. 5 isn't that much now, but sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Real quick, no filter. So we were doing introductions at a ministry retreat about a couple months ago, and she had to give her birth date, and it was 2/1/90, and one of my buddies turns around and goes, 90? Nice. I was like, oh, come on. So
I'm
thanks
not
for that.
Much younger. Okay. We're both immature. It's okay.
There we go.
Okay. Anyways, the only thing I was living for at that time was myself, and I barely even valued that. I just wanted to fit in with people that also couldn't fit in with others. So 2008 came. 18-year-old Sarah. I was an adult now, which is scary. I graduated from the ALC in River Falls. This is where all my friends went that I thought were friends. They all got kicked out of high school too, so we went from the public to the alternative. I straightened up enough to get into college, which was awesome. I was going to go to college to fulfill my dream of being an RN and working full-time. I was also working full-time at a memory care facility, which I loved. Life seemed to be heading in the right direction. I wanted to be good. I really did. But I was still partying any chance I could and focusing on having a life of superficial pleasure. Then 2009 came. I was 19, just 1 year out of high school. I'll never forget the night. I was drunk at a party and I agreed to be injected with a substance that ruins people's lives. Because of the small ears in here, I won't say the name out loud, but it starts with an M. I was injected by somebody that I had just met hours prior, because I wanted him to like me and I wanted to have fun. Within a week, I had dropped out of college, quit my job, moved out of my mom's house, and moved into my car with this guy that I used with. There were times I would, back up. Obviously, me and his relationship was not great, so there was times I would sleep in my car by myself and until it got towed. There were times I would sleep on park benches in St. Paul or behind stairwells of hotels, wherever I could get warm. I couldn't stay at a homeless shelter because I had lost my ID at some point. I would sleep outside the door hoping not to get kicked by someone to see if I was alive. A lot of it is a blur, because I was in a drug-induced psychosis for a lot of it. I remember hearing and seeing people that weren't there, and sometimes I thought I was living in a movie or a simulation of some sort. I also remember maybe I was already dead and living in hell. And if I wasn't, maybe I was better off there. This part of my life feels like a movie that I've watched. It's hard to associate myself with this part of me. But I also know that there are people out there right now at this moment that are feeling like this, and it's extremely heartbreaking. But one of the many times I was arrested, I had earned about 14 days of solitary confinement. Would you grab me a tissue?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Or a napkin. Anything works. It's distracting when I'm sniffling. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So solitary confinement in jail consists of a 7x10 cell, a bed, a toilet, all stainless steel or concrete, a sink, which is usually attached to the toilet, and one book. They gave me one book at that jail, which I will always be grateful of that jail, Goodhue County. And that one book was the Bible. It was a little Bible. It was the one that I think it was it's Gideon's Bible. Yep. And I knew I wouldn't be able to understand it because I've looked at it before and it was all gibberish to me. But I had nowhere else to turn, so I reluctantly started reading it the same way you'd start any book, from the beginning. I read that whole Bible front to back, Genesis to Revelation, in 7 days. I couldn't put it down. It began to speak to my soul. I can't even explain the feeling, the understanding, and the conviction. I had never felt that before. I had heard people say that it's the living word, and it just didn't make sense to me until that moment. It came alive to me in that cell. I couldn't understand, though, how I could relate to so much of it somehow. The book was thousands of years old. It just didn't make any sense. The delusion I was suffering from because of the drugs was dulled while I was reading. When I read about repentance is when I first felt hope. This didn't have to be my life. And I believed what I read. I didn't trust anything at that point in my life, but I trusted this. And the only explanation is the Holy Spirit. I can't put into words how beautiful that new feeling of love and forgiveness felt. In those moments, something shifted inside of me. The weight of my past began to lift, and I felt like a new person, just washed clean. It was unlike any other love I had ever felt before. The shame melted away. Forgiveness was just given to me. I didn't have to do anything to receive it, just to receive it. I just had to admit my wrongs and turn from my old self, and I was forgiven. Now, wouldn't it be great if I told you I was released from jail and I was able to completely turn away from the old me and put 100% of my focus on God? Yeah, I agree. But I was just a newborn, just learning to walk spiritually. Just a week prior, I was fully convinced I was destined to either be an addict on the streets, a dealer, or dead. I knew what I needed to do to have a fulfilling life, based on what I had read and believed to be true, but I wasn't ready to surrender my life. There were a lot of things I had to change, and change is hard. Working on yourself is hard. It still is to this day. But where was I supposed to start? Over the next few years, I struggled with my addictions one after the next. Drinking was the worst one for me. It seemed so innocent. Holding on to old friends was the thing that kept me sick the longest, though. I ended up spending 2.5 years in prison in 2012 for various charges. 2014 came, and I was still holding on to some of the old me. More specifically, a boyfriend I had acquired pre-prison, who stayed with me for my whole stay. 2015, I became a mom. In 2016, a mom of 2. And even though I was more in love with those 2 girls than I had ever loved anyone in my life, I was falling further and further away from who I wanted to be. I split up with the girls' father in 2018. My girls were 2 and 3 when they were placed with their grandma by CPS. Between the alcohol and the drug use, neither the girl's father or I was fit parents at that time. And I knew it. I had told my probation officer to please go get the girls. And they did. I was ready to surrender now. I was ready to repent again. And I was ready to do whatever it took. In August 2019, I checked myself into inpatient treatment and began rebuilding my life. This journey hasn't been without its challenges, though. The narrow path isn't an easy one to stay on, but it is so worth it. Let's see, what do we have next here? This was, I can't remember the year, but a couple of years ago. I remember in, let's see. Oh, I have another page. I thought that was it. Okay. Okay, little by little, God convicted me for things I was allowing in my life. He was gentle with me. He always is. But he was making moves. At the time, I don't feel like it's gentle because I have big feelings. I cry a lot. But he's a good, good God. I even put an ad out in our local Facebook group back in River Falls when I lived there. I was in need of a spiritual mentor to help me in my journey. I needed help and accountability, and I was looking for a community. And I didn't know who to ask. I didn't have anybody in my life. I just needed something, and that was my only way, and it was amazing. Several ladies invited me over to their house to be my mentor, and it was the pouring out of people. It was amazing, but I ended up meeting a mentor, and she was good for me for that season. In 2023, I was answering an altar call at my new church that I had started going to with my mentor. I was on my knees crying, and I prayed that God would send me someone to help me raise my children. Someone that loved God more than anything. Someone with a true heart for God. And so I paid $70 and got a dating app. And then I deleted it. But I liked his profile before I deleted it, and then he messaged me, so.
All right. I paid $70 too.
I mean, you could do it free, but you don't get the good ones for free. On to you.
On to me. All right. So, yeah, you guys are so patient with us. How are we doing out there still? You doing okay? All right, thank you. When I was at college, over the weekends when people would leave, I wouldn't say a single word from Friday afternoon until Sunday night when people came back, and boy, are things changed now. So thank you. So I've been doing ministry in this town since I was 22, like when I had metabolism. It was awesome. Like I love this community with what we do in this community and the young adults around here that I've been able to just love on. And I started doing young adult ministry when I was one. And that didn't prevent years of impatience, of waiting, of frustration, of hurt, of brokenness, of single life. I was so used to living the single life that it was really hard to commit to a woman. And then I met Summer, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then you meet Summer, and she'd been single for so long too. So you had two single, independent people trying to figure this out. So we dated for 3 years before I proposed, and she would have said yes, like second date. But like we had to work on ourselves so that we could stop being single people trying to be married, but actually be ready for marriage. And so this is a photo of us making our vows, and Pastor Steve, who is just a hero of mine, I had met when I was 19 years old at that praise and worship service. I had him do our ceremony. And we're laughing there because when you push a ring on, sometimes you don't see how far you're actually pushing it, and she was hurting me. But we were doing vows there, and little did we know, till death do you part, like death would make us part. And 4 years later, so this picture on the left is August 15th, 2021. We'd already had Finley. She was 2. And I had been DJing a wedding reception. I actually had 2 that weekend, and I had left my phone number. I had left instructions with the wedding party with like the best man, like, hey, if I have to leave, here's how you run this stuff. And then you just keep it. I don't care anymore, right? So I had left instructions with wedding parties, with the house next door to where I'd been doing stuff in case the call came. We're still about 6 weeks out from when we thought it was coming, right? Well, I get home and my wife's over the sink. Summer is over the sink. And she's like, it doesn't feel like when Finley came. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Let's take you in. So she actually insisted that she drive herself in and I would stay with Finley. And she never came home again. Because that morning, they had slowed down the labor process. They ambulanced her up to St. Cloud because we needed a NICU. And I hustled up as soon as it was early enough to drop off Finley with Grandma and Grandpa Schmitz, and hustled up there. And as I was parking the car, I get a text from Barb, Summer's mom, going, "Come quickly, new concerns." And my first thought was, oh no, the boys. Well, she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. The doctor was like, I know what I'm looking at. The panels that they had run when she went into the ER in Wilmer had come back concerning. And so she survived the C-section. The boys, despite being almost 6 weeks early, were 6 pounds 1 ounce, 5 pounds 2 ounces, so they take after me. And she survived, and then she rested a day and started chemo because she'd been sick approximately 2 weeks, but they had said if we don't do something, she probably would have had 2 weeks to live. So the boys coming that early might have saved her life, actually. So that's the picture on the left. That's the story about the one on the left. We had no idea how serious things were. Like the doctor told me at the time, going like, hey, if you see increased activity running in and out of this room, don't panic. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what that means. But she could have bled out, but she survived. Until our 4th wedding anniversary. The boys were in NICU. Griffin had just come home. It was the only day I'd missed up until that point. I stayed home with Griffin the day before this happened because I knew I was coming up there to have lunch with my wife. We were going to have a blended, just make a smoothie for her because it hurt for her to do anything, hurt for her to swallow. It just hurt because of the results of chemo. And they had to be super aggressive with everything. And I'm such a lunatic that I was at the Campus Ministry Center that Wednesday morning, September 1st, making sure everything was ready for my volunteers to come in and serve the college kids. Buzzed back to my place and saw my mother-in-law screaming at the phone over the sink. And I pick up the phone, I go, what's going on? And the lady on the other end goes, it's taken a turn we didn't want. And I'm like, what's that even mean? She suffered a hemorrhage in her brain. What's that even mean? It's not good. All right. And there's just little pieces in your brain that will always last. And there's going to be people in this community that are forever linked with me, whether they like it or not. But that morning before I took off, I look out my window after receiving this devastating news, and I see Mayor Marv mowing my lawn. I just go, what fever dream is this? And so I go out and we pray. And I load up Barb and grab a bag, and we go. I call Steve on the way, and he ends up beating me to the hospital. Summer actually codes a couple times on the way, and there's no clean way to talk to a doctor when your mother-in-law's in the seat and it's on speaker. What do you want us to do? She's not breathing. Anything, man. Anything. So we get up there, and they've already brought her in. I dropped off Barb trying to get her to be able to see her daughter because I'm not sure if she's going to be alive again. And we missed her by a little bit, and we go into waiting room in neurosurgery. And the guy didn't have to take the surgery. Summer could have bled out on the table. But she survived, but a machine was breathing for her for the rest. So we come up to the ICU. And we don't have any pictures of that. Part of me now regrets it, but at the time I wasn't strong enough to have any evidence of that. But the neurologist was there, and they were running tests, and there was no response to anything. So on our 4th wedding anniversary, we already kind of knew what was going to happen. And so you're in the middle of people expecting Caring Bridge posts about when the boys are coming home. And we had been trying to craft Caring Bridge posts to explain what was happening with my wife as well. And it was just a zoo. And we didn't know what we didn't know. And I'll tell you now, this picture was taken at 6:01 p.m. I'd had the conversation with Summer's mom going like, there's no response in your daughter. She's going to die. And her hitting me, pushing me away because I was trying to hug her and just comfort her. Because she thought I was going to tell her that she had woke up. So the only comfort I had was walking down to see Xander in NICU. and hold him. And that was like 17 days after. And so the only other day I missed for going up to St. Cloud, they called and said Griffin was coming home, and it was about 2 weeks earlier than what they had told me the day before. So I had gone up and got him, stayed home, everything just crashed and burned. And I remember holding Xander the day after Summer had died in NICU, and the chaplain coming up and just quoting Bible verses to me and not having it, man. Not because what she was saying wasn't true, but it wasn't appropriate how she was doing it. And I just wanted to be alone with my son and Jesus. So we planned a funeral. And this is from the funeral. I just wanted to escape. Saw hundreds of people each of the 2 days. And I just wanted to be away. But I also wanted to remember that God was with me in that moment. So that's the picture I took in the stairwell, hiding from people. And the next few weeks of my life were spent hiding from people, but I had to be in public. So I would go to Walmart to pick up supplies, but I wouldn't walk through the aisles because I don't hide very well. And I'm probably, because of what's happened, one of the more famous people in the community, whether I like it or not. So I'd walk through departments, through the racks, weaving, trying to be invisible. And I would have these sweet women come up to me, elderly women, in the weeks that followed going, I lost my husband 5 years ago. And I would just hate it. I would hate it. I'll be so mad. Because I'd be like, you had him for 45, 50, 55 years. I'm still making trips to NICU at the time some of these conversations were happening. I don't know what's next. I don't know what I'm going to do. And about 2 months in, I felt like God just kind of tapped me on the shoulder and go, hey, you understand they're hurting too? And one of the things that I really prayed about this at the time was not to waste my grief. Not to waste that season of just utter despair. I remember hearing a pastor talk about that for one of his friends who was suffering cancer, and any prayer request, pray I don't waste my sickness. And so I had that same prayer for me. Pray I don't waste my hurt. Pray I don't waste this season. And God opened up this, just like this door of empathy that I had previously not experienced. So I listened to those widows. And I still do. And it's opened up other doors for ministry. A lot of time passes, and there were some dates in between. But the first Sunday, after we canceled memberships to that dating app, apparently, we had our first date the Sunday after Thanksgiving, after talking for about a week. And it was on a Sunday. And I sent the kids off with one family to watch. Well, I actually had to divide and conquer. Boys went one way, Finley went another. And I was about 3 pews deep walking out of my church service after the service had ended. And it felt like God just said, hey, you're meeting your wife today. And I don't think like that. I don't go like, oh, there's nothing. That's not my experience. And I will tell you right now, prior to my experience with that, if I heard someone tell me that, I would tell them to shut up. Come on now, right? So I drive, and I'm excited for my first date, and I spent a little time at a coffee shop at the local store while someone went Christmas tree shopping for a while. She'll remain nameless. But we went to Culver's and just had some sodas. We didn't even order any food, and we played this game talking about just like conversation around our worst fears. It was like ranking random fears that people typically have. But the first question I asked her before we sat down was, do you have any doubt about where this is going? First date. And do you remember what you said?
No.
Do you not remember, or do you?
I remember I said no. I said no.
She said no. Meaning she did not have any doubt about where this was going.
Yes.
And I don't know if you want to share anything else about your experience from the friend end of any of that. But for me, now's your chance on that.
You're doing so well.
Oh, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
I don't have anything written down.
You're very kind. So that's the end of our first date, and then like 2 months later.
Yeah.
So it was. All right. So once again, if you would have told me I would have been engaged essentially 2 months later, if someone else came up to me at that time, I would have told them, mistake. But as we talked after we went on a few dates, we're just like, all right, there's not a ring coming until after New Year's. And we were out for New Year's at a buddy's wedding. And clock strikes midnight. She essentially goes, tick, 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 tick. So I pull out my phone and show her the receipt for the ring I just bought a week earlier. I said, quiet, all right? So it's like, it's coming. Probably not till February. So like end of January, I was like, I already got the ring. We've already been talking about this. This is the plan. I'm not waiting till February. Because I was like, birthday? No. Like, that's cliche. Valentine's Day? Well, that's not even there. How about now? Like, kind of thing. So we planned it out. I proposed in the parking lot of Mall of America, because that's what romantics do.
It was very romantic.
But what I had done was I had put 4 bags together, and I had put a picture of my mom and Summer's mom in there, because she was going to inherit 2 mother-in-laws. I put twins jerseys in another one for her and 2 for the girls. And then kind of the inside joke red herring of it, I put a toy accordion in the 3rd one, seeing if she'd be scared of that. And then in the 4th one was commitment. It was the ring. And you're going to have to rank those in what order you're going to be most scared of. And I proposed, and she said yes. And then we went and had like food court, slash. But I know it was so quick. But a lot of thought and prayer happened between this and this because of my experience with this. When death makes you part, it's hard. And I didn't know if I could do that again. So as we're taking vows, once again, Pastor Steve hooked us up and helped us out. Came back from South Dakota to help us out. And this is the part where he goes, as long as you both shall live. The first time I made vows, I can't remember exactly what those vows, how they ended. Till death do you part, or as long as you both shall live. I don't remember what he says. You better believe I remember this one. And that's where my voice cracked that day. Because I knew the weight of that vow. Because I had held hands for our engagement photos. I had held hands on our first wedding anniversary trip. And I had held hands to a hand that couldn't hold mine back before Summer passed away. I knew that was a possibility moving forward. That we were going to make vows till death do us part, as long as we both shall live. And then it would be someone else's job. One of us is going to have to mourn well. The picture on the left was from October 10th, 2021. The boys are those little bundles in there. The bear represents summer. All the boys, all the kids got them from the hospital. And Finley. And that was my life. That was my life. And a lot of work happened. God did a lot of work, supplied a lot of answered prayers, and kept me alive up until that picture on the right. Now, once again, to kind of quote my wonderful wife, I wish it could be like, hey, and we lived happily ever after. But like,
It's a lot of kids.
that's a lot of kids. And it's like 1, 2, like it's us. And we get a lot of help still. Like, look at this. This is so awesome to have community here for Atlas and to hear our story and to hear what God's doing. But this is hard work. It's hard work speaking candidly as a dad. Loving and disciplining kids that are getting to know you. My own biological and Sarah's biological. It's hard work parenting from different backgrounds and upbringings. It's hard work balancing schedules and dying to self. I was like, I had closet space before, now where to go, It's hard work cleaning up the same toys that you just cleaned up. It's hard work juggling schedules and dying to self in a different way than you've ever had to die before. And I don't know how you want to chime in here with any of the current struggles or rewards.
Like tonight before we got here.
Yo, all right, so I don't know how much you want to share, but I will.
I know the devil was like, you will not share your story tonight. You're not going to make it out of this house.
Yeah, there was an attempt and the Lord won.
They're ignoring us now. But.
And that's beautiful. I still pastored. I went back to kind of business as usual about 2 months after Summer passed away. But I would go on Sunday mornings, I would load all the kids up in the car, and I would have some help. I hired nannies for overnights to keep me alive and get sleep. But I would put the kids in the car, buckle them up, run into the house, and change shirts, because the first couple of times I did it, I was sweating through the shirt I was wearing and going to preach in, because it was that much work to wrangle everybody together. And tonight, that was one of those nights, and I wish I would have changed shirts before coming. I'm sweaty. So if you want to hug her, all right?
I'm also sweaty. Overactive sweat glands.
But this is the struggle that we currently live with. And what I want to encourage you guys with is that God's love doesn't look like a neat little happy ending when he's still in the middle of your story. Okay? It doesn't look like, hey, roll credits, play the music, we're good here. It looks like He is with you as you're limping. He is with you while you're crawling. He is with you when you achieve that victory. He is with you when you feel like a failure.
Sometimes it's me going into the bathroom and crying on the floor and asking God to help me get through this. He does. And every time I cry, I'm like, these tears are caught by God, and he answers them. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to not expect perfection out of yourself sometimes when you're parenting. And it's also hard not to expect perfection out of your kids when parenting. And I do young adult ministry, so I'm used to talking to people like they're grown-ups, even when they don't act that way. And so like when my kids don't act like grown-ups, they shouldn't be, and it's hard for me to connect those dots sometimes and extend the same grace that my Father extends me. And so that's hard. Should we open it up to any questions, or do you?
Yeah.
You guys have any questions or have anything that you want us to elaborate more on or take back and apologize for, I guess? I don't know.
I guess.
Yo, it's like they're totally Scandinavian, aren't they? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hearing our story.
Are we going to do the song? Are we able to do the song? I can.
Hey, Jeff, were we able to do the song? Well, like, we're not doing it.
It's okay. We're not singing a duet, but. Okay.
I don't know what he meant. All right, so we wanted to close off our presentation with some worship, and it's the song Gratitude by Brandon Lake, I hope.
Yeah.
There should be a lyric video up there. If you guys want to stand,
We encourage
and
it.
feel free to worship as, I guess I just told you to stand, but feel free to worship as you feel
Stand
led.
now.
But I'm going to put my mic away
Yeah.
and sing along probably.